Welcome back, pod people, to a brand new episode of Cinema d'Amore. I'm your host, Justin Morgan, and I'm here with
Chuck.
And we're continuing comedies, and we are now on Dumb and Dumber. Funniest movie from 1994, probably.
Just from that year.
I don't know what's even funnier than that. The Lion King.
Hilarious.
But I think The Lion King's 94. Maybe Pulp Fiction. That's pretty funny.
It is a pretty funny movie.
Yeah, you're right about that. Most of the stuff in that is pretty quotable, too. And I think that's kind of where Dumb and Dumber hits the right spot for me. It's so fucking quotable to the point that, like, it just falls into so many daily things that I have. Like, when they're talking about, you say I'm like 1 in 100. I would say you're 1 in a million. So you're saying there's a chance. Like, that, just like any odds whatsoever. Because I tortured myself. I don't know if you did. Did you watch any other Dumb and Dumber movies? I knew you wouldn't.
Nope.
I knew it was a big no. I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to watch all of them because I don't remember anything about the prequel or the sequel. And in like a week, I won't remember anything from any of those movies, probably. I will say that they both kind of get into the realm of terrible by just totally repeating plot points from the original Dumb and Dumber. I mean, who is listening to this and hasn't watched it? If you haven't watched it, the fuck are you doing? Do that first, then come back. But yeah, Dumb and Dumber, the prequel, I can't even explain it. It has some good actors in it. Nobody has a good performance except for maybe Bob Saget.
I was about to say, Bob Saget's the only part I ever remember. There's shit everywhere. It's everywhere.
It's on the mirror. It's on the towels. He is literally the funniest part of that whole movie because I think everybody in that prequel, they're all stupid. Every single character except Bob Saget. He's the only one that plays like a regular person. Everyone else is so crazy. Like Sherry O'Terry, like she's the dumb lunch lady, but then when she's teaching the special eds class, she's like smart all of a sudden. But when she's back with Eugene Levy, the principal, she's back to being like super stupid. And then their impersonations are hit or miss. Like there's a few times that they're really good, but they're basically cosplaying and quoting things from the first movie to the point that it's not all that exciting because I think what makes this one work better than any of the other two, I guess, is that it kind of does have some good emotional beats in it. Like when Lloyd's like, I just don't want to be alone. Like there's moments like that where it's not most of the movie, but it's enough of the movie that you genuinely feel bad for them.
Yeah.
I think you just kind of accept them in that world and they don't feel as stupid. Like they do really stupid things in this movie, but they don't feel like they're completely void of intelligence like they are in the others for some fucking reason.
I think the only other thing that sticks with me from the prequel is, and this is, I think, something that I think about or quote on a daily basis is
Is it the doll hairs?
Yes. I said you give me $5. I said I give you 5 doll hairs. Well, give me the doll hairs then. Here's a 20. Get out of here. That part always makes me laugh when I think about it. Those are like the two things, like Bob Saget, that part, and I guess I would say the only another one that comes to mind is I think when they talk about the short bus, they're like, the cool kids sit in the back of the bus. What? The whole back of the short bus is all the back of the bus.
The bus is funny. It's sad when one of the funniest things in the movie is literally the bus.
Just the fact that they have a short bus makes it funny.
Like a shorter than normal bus. It's a short bus.
Like has like 5 seats in it, yeah.
It's so fucking weird. I do remember too, Shia LaBeouf, he is in the movie, but I guess he tried out to be Harry and he didn't make it, which I feel like is maybe a good thing. I can't really think of
Doesn't make me think of Jeff Daniels.
No, he doesn't. The impersonations were fine.
I think Lloyd might be better than Harry a little bit, but I don't know. It's like you're working off of Jim Carrey, which you don't even necessarily have to be doing Lloyd. You could just do Jim Carrey in general. Just pretend you're Jim Carrey and just make faces.
Yeah, but just like the quoting things that just don't make any fucking sense. The original, just almost every line is, I don't know, for some reason, pretty well thought out. Like every little bit in that movie just makes me laugh. Seabass, and I love his fucking hat. Wine 'em, dine 'em, 69 'em. Like, it's fucking funny.
What's the soup du jour?
Oh, that's the soup of the day.
Sounds yummy.
But yeah, like everything comes back into the other movies for some reason when it's like, it's not necessarily what was the funny part of the fucking movie. In the prequel, they write the one message in like ketchup and mustard.
Ketchup on the floor to Louis Guzman.
Yeah, because there's that scene with, the ketchup and the mustard. When I'm watching the original movie, they are talking about this past that they had that becomes a plot point in the sequel. But I'm like, how do you have a prequel and you don't even address the shit that they brought up that happened? Like, You know, when he's talking about being the French tickler, I'm like, why is that not in the movie? You think of all things it would be, and then the continuity doesn't match at all. So, like, obviously, Dumb and Dumber 2 is just completely ignoring the fact that there was ever a prequel. I don't know if the Farrelly brothers ever watched that movie.
Probably not.
Just the stupid little things. Like, I don't even know 100% what is improv and what was actually part of the script. I know that Jim Carrey is a big improv person, and Jeff Daniels isn't, but I think he was outside of his comfort zone. He says it's one of the best experiences that he's ever had. That's probably why I signed up to do the second one. The second one feels a little weird too. Like they don't feel like they're all in it like they were for the first one.
Yeah. They're just there for a paycheck.
Yeah, it feels very half-baked, or like I think they thought that the experience would be way better than it was. Because, they just keep doing the same dumb shit. I don't know. There's so many classic parts in this movie. You know, I always think of, hey, you can't be spending money like that. We don't have a lot of money. He's like, oh, this isn't our trip funds. These are extra funds that I was able to make. It's like, with what? He's selling things. What'd you sell? And he starts listing it, and he's like, Petey. He's like, Petey, the parakeet, who's head fell off. Yeah. He's like, I took care of it.
That blind kid down the street.
Yeah. And then they have like one of those like news update things, and they are like, yeah, some sick person take
selling
this
dead
person.
pets.
Yeah, it's just so fucking funny. The IOUs, they stand out to me. I'm always like, IOU, that's just as good as money. We even talked about when we were at Steel City Con, people dress up. I'm like, we should do something like the Dumb and Dumber tuxedos. Those would be the perfect costume, I think.
Yeah.
And they haven't been able to nail it since. I don't know if we'll get another one. I mean, at the end of the sequel, it says they're going to return in Dumb and Dumber 4 in 2034. So there's time to make another one.
Yeah. I think Jim Carrey, he's Dr. Robotnik at this point. He's given up on all other films.
Only if the script is good, he said.
Well, the script didn't seem that good for Dumb and Dumber 2, so...
With Sonic.
Oh,
he said only if the script is good, and he's came back for 3, so the script must have been good. No, I don't think he's always been a script is good person, because it's like we were saying before, where everybody jokes about the cable guy like it's the script that ruined his career, or almost ruined his career. And I know Jeff Daniels people were fighting him with it. They didn't want him to be in it. They thought that the scene where he's like shitting his guts out would end his career. But no, he moved on to bigger, better things like Speed. I think Speed was like right after this, which he does. He has like the best moment in that movie when he dies.
I think another thing that I forget about, because it's been a while since I've watched this, but some of the parts that I love the best are Lloyd's absolutely unhinged like fantasy sequences that he has a few times in this movie, which are like, they're all super dark and disturbing.
Yeah, and how's this rated PG-13?
It's like it's supposed to be like this fun comedy, and his fantasy sequences like involve murder and are like always very, very dark and unsettling. He imagines killing that woman's husband after he got rescued from his kidnapping attempt. He just straight up murders him.
They're like, he's got a gun. You're like, who? And it's Lloyd.
Yeah.
Where he rips that chef's heart out and puts it in the doggy bag.
Yeah, as the full-on fight with the Chinese chef.
Pretends his throat got slit when he's like getting at the barbershop.
That's almost something you want to see like more in a prequel to a movie like this. Is like, why is Lloyd's fantasies in his head so dark and disturbing? Like, what happened to him that makes him such a kind of crazy person?
They should have had in the past. They start off highly intelligent, so you're like, what the hell happened to these guys?
They got like hit in the head or something like that.
Just something really stupid. They just fall down, they're dumb all of a sudden. It's just sort of like some sort of brain injuries that they had. And I mean, I think the Farrelly brothers too, like most of their stuff tends to be like grossed out, fart kind of humor. I think this had a nice balance where it wasn't too much of that, or that worked fairly well. And I think of other things like, well, I guess Dumb and Dumber 2. That was one that just like somewhere in the middle. It wasn't stuck on you. It wasn't There's Something About Mary.
Yeah.
Which that has like that crazy cartoonish kind of opening too. I don't know what they're thinking. The Farrellys.
They're just some weird guys.
When I watched this movie as a kid, I probably wasn't my favorite. It was like, I think we were talking maybe after the podcast. Maybe it was on the podcast for Some Like It Hot, but we were talking about growing up with like a shit ton of Jim Carrey movies. And literally everything that you were talking about you had on VHS was the two Ace Venturas, The Mask, and this. And I probably watched Ace Ventura, Pet Detective like a billion times. And I felt like it was like, I don't know, my 20th watch before I like kind of understood what the hell was happening in that movie. You know, parents aren't telling me anything. I had to figure out what the hell was in Ray Finkel's underwear all on my own.
Yeah, that might still be my favorite Ace Ventura. I like Ace Ventura 2.
What was your favorite part of that?
Ace Ventura 2?
Yeah.
When Nature Calls.
When Nature Calls.
Definitely Chicago.
Chicago?
When they have to bow down.
Chicago.
Someone says
Gotcha.
that, and he's like, Chicago. That's it. You're out.
Excuse me, but your balls are showing. Like, you know, the stuff that sticks in my head. Important things? No. Things from these couple of Jim Carrey movies? Yes.
Yeah.
And then we get later to, like, The Majestic, and I'm like, oh, shit, he's actually a pretty good actor. Yeah. I think we talked about that before. It kind of seems to happen with comedic actors. They're usually really good with drama, and the other way around is more rare. And I think that, I don't know if I would say Jeff Daniels is mainly a dramatic actor, I would say, with what he picks.
Yeah.
He does really well in this movie. I don't know how else to describe him. He's like the smarter one. I guess he's the dumb and not the dumber.
Yeah, he seems to vaguely have general ideas or thoughts that aren't completely insane. He's almost more just goofy than dumb, kind of. Like, he has no common sense is more his thing, but he actually does kind of know things, whereas Lloyd's just completely, like, stupid, almost borderline childlike, like, just doesn't understand anything going on around him.
You know, when he goes out to pick up food and he comes back with, like, well, he doesn't come back with anything because he gets robbed, but that scene where he gets robbed and he, like, jumps when the little old lady backs up, I don't know, his comedic timing is so good. I got robbed by a old woman in a motorized car. I should have seen it coming. I didn't see it coming. The shaggin' wagon with the big van that looks like a dog, and when the FBI is like,
They're
the
driving
muff
a
cuts.
1987 sheepdog.
Did you get a description on the vehicle? Oh yeah, we did. we definitely did.
They have multiple great vehicles in this. Lloyd starts out driving his limousine that he's not a good limo driver. Harry has the Mutt Cuts truck, and then in the end they get a cheap moped or something. Then they upgrade to a Lamborghini.
Yeah, they have it all.
They really go from the bottom to the top.
If I'd watched this the first time, like not knowing what this movie was about, I would have probably really enjoyed that gag where he seems like he's the rich person in the back of the limousine before he like jumps up front to be like he's the limo driver.
Doesn't know the difference between Austria and Australia.
They keep doing that. That's like one of their things throughout the whole goddamn, put another shrimp on the Barbie. Like, no, I don't think so. I'm out of here. Yeah, or like, I bet you I can get you the gamble. I don't think so. 1 to 10 odds, I can get you. You're on. Okay, now we just gonna have to figure out a way to get you the gamble. I think when people first saw this movie, they're like, "Oh, this is too stupid." But then these stupid things, they keep coming back. Like, what is it? Harlan Williams' character.
Yeah.
The Pennsylvania state trooper, which I can't remember. I think if it was Jim Carrey or one of them like recommended him. He was pretty new in stand-up at the time to the Farrelly brothers. But like, yeah, that's such a weird fucking scene too, where he's like, I gotta piss. I gotta go really bad. And they start pissing in the beer bottles and, the cop drives by him and he's holding all the beer bottles.
Farrelly brothers do like to work with like the same actors in like weird ways too. Because I think Harlan Williams comes back and there's something about Mary, but he's like a hitchhiking murderer in that one. So he has like weird. His parts are always like somewhere on the highway. They find him. He pulls Lynn Shays in this, and there's something about Mary, but in something about Mary, they go like way over the top by having her play like an 80-year-old woman who's like suntanning in the nude, and Matt Dillon freaks out and he's like, "Oh God!"
And I think another thing that works so well with this movie too is that these characters, when you're not trying to describe where they came from, they just work out so perfectly. It's almost like Beavis and Butthead or something, where they don't fit in with anybody else.
I mean, the movie almost doesn't have a plot for most of it. It starts out with Mary, who takes his limo to the airport, which is more great conversation. What brings you to the airport? Flying somewhere?
How'd you
Well,
guess?
how'd you know? I saw the tickets on the luggage and just put two and two together. But yeah, when she's dropping off a briefcase there, she's like making a drop. We see people like waiting to pick it up. They're obviously criminals.
They are
And
way obviously criminals.
Lloyd tries to get it for her, and then it's a solid, like, a long time before you even find out what the briefcase is. They just have it for a good 45 minutes to an hour of this movie before you even find out that it's full of cash or something like that. You have no clue why she was leaving the briefcase. I mean, you could assume that if she's leaving a briefcase for criminals that it probably has money in it, but there's just so much stuff that's not even, they completely bypass most of story for, just throw some more jokes in there.
I mean, the main plot is she left her briefcase and I got to bring it back to her. And he brings up, I fell in love with her. And I think that like, I need to go out and find this woman. And this briefcase is just an excuse for me to see her again. It's a road trip movie where they're going to Aspen and they're like bright and sunny Aspen, like your Austria thing, just like completely
I think it's
not
in California.
Yeah. And like, yeah, all those scenes too, like when the shaggin' wagon breaks down or gets traded and he rolls up on that little tiny ass scooter and he's like, yeah, I traded it for this thing and like a quarter tank of gas. And he's like, you know, you do something stupid like this, and then you redeem yourself. Like, that's classic.
Yeah.
Classic hook bait switch comedy.
I do also love everyone thinking that they're like hitmen. They can't figure that out when the two criminals show up and they leave the note because they think it was the gas guy trying to get them to pay their bill. And he's like, "Dear gas man, we left with the cash." And it's like, oh my god, these guys have been tailing us for weeks. How else would they know I've got gas?
And then when they accidentally kill him by giving him a hot pepper, and then when he needs his pills, they give him the rat poison. They literally murder the guy, and then they're like, "Check, please."
Yeah.
Leave. But yeah, you're right.
They accidentally kill that owl. Jesus, they killed that owl as a message to us that they're not messing around.
You think they did that on purpose with a cork?
Who else could do that?
They were showing their skills.
They're pros.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is like the funny mistaken identity movie too.
Yeah.
It's a Hitchcock mistaken identity movie mixed in with a road trip movie. And then, yeah, they get to Aspen, and then they can't find her. They don't remember her name. They get in that fight because they're cold, and you know he's got a second pair of gloves on.
God, you should take this extra pair of gloves. My hands are really getting sweaty.
Yeah, and then the minute that they fight, Harry's gonna throw that suitcase in the lake or the river or whatever that is. It gets busted open. See all the cash, and then it just becomes a movie of like them spending money in the most insane, ridiculous ways. They go all out for everything. They're constantly tipping people.
Got to get all the best stuff. Get some haircuts. Get a pedicure with his hobbit feet.
He did have hobbit feet. They're fucking gross. I remember it was like a couple years ago. I was at work, and then like people just start quoting it, and there's people that are just like, "Oh, what are you guys talking about?" I'm like, "Fucking Dumb and Dumber." I know a lot of older people that'll be like, "Oh, that movie's just not funny. That movie's just so stupid." It is stupid, but like I said, it fits into like a really good realm of like, I don't know, it's just the right amount of humor. I like the, towards the end when they give Harry the gun and the bulletproof vest. Mm-hmm. They're like, "I had the bulletproof vest. I'm fine." He's like, "What if they shot you?
What if he shot you in the face?"
He's like, "What?
Yeah, what if he shot me in the face?"
That's a risk we were willing to take. Like that's great.
It is all the small moments that I think make it like even better than the huge jokes. Is like when he goes to leave the bar and there's that framed photo or framed like newspaper that's like "Man walks on the moon," and he's like, "Whoa, that's crazy!" Like it happened 30 years ago, and he's only just now hearing about it like it happened yesterday.
I love that line too when he walks out of the convenience store and it's big gulp. Huh. Well, see you later.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's true, but I know that's like there's a rumor that those were just like they weren't extras or something. I have a hard time believing that.
It is. It's like it is just like all those like tiny things like that just like add to.
It's like one of those John Deere letters.
Yeah.
It's almost like you forget about it because there's so much.
With an S. It's on there. Samsonite. it was way off.
And I think he literally says Swanson, doesn't he? Like right
He does,
beforehand.
yeah. It's like one of his guesses, and then Harry's like, it's on the briefcase.
Yeah, we
Or
left.
I think the other one I always remembered was like the guys walking around the guy and his girl, and he's like, "Whoa, look at the butt
Yeah.
on that," and he's like, "Yeah, he must work out."
When the FBI woman who I don't think we know that she's FBI at that point, but when she shows up at the bar and he's acting all like grossed out with her, like she's like
keeps
the most
rolling his
hideous
eyes.
person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, lady, please. He brought up previously, probably the last real comedy that you really liked in theaters was probably The Hangover. And it's like, where do you see the crossover between that and something like this?
Oh, I mean, it's definitely there. There's definitely Zach Galifianakis' character is definitely feels very much like some sort of combination of Harry and Lloyd. He's another character that like I still remember the stupid small dumb things like like they have that nice car and that old man walks up and he's like, "Nice car," and he just goes, "Yeah, don't look at it, Grandpa," and just like shoos him away. It's like so rude to him for no reason. It's just like the stupid things like that. Or I still think when I see people that have like guys that wear like the bags and it's like a nice purse. It's a satchel. Indiana Jones wears one, and they're like, yeah, so does Joy Behar.
And that's a Seinfeld joke. It's a European carry-on. A what? He took my European carry-on. What? He stole my purse.
Stole my purse, yeah. Yeah, like we mentioned last time, there's the comedies are going out. Deadpool's still the #1 movie.
I mean, even Deadpool characters is kind of close to what Lloyd Christmas is in this.
Yeah.
I mean, he's that same kind of like, maybe not as quirky, but if you'd made Dumbpole, that's who it would be.
Yeah.
But yeah, even that, like the gross out stuff in this movie, when they're frozen on the bike, when they finally get to Aspen because it's fucking cold, they have that scene about just peeing, but they like frozen onto his back.
Just let it go, man.
All the frozen like snot on his nose and everything, like it's fucking gross. I love it. I mean, I guess it has that toilet humor that I liked when I was a kid, but there's still enough to that movie that I really enjoy the adult side of it. And I do think that it has an adult side of it. It's basically making fun of adulthood. You know, the fact of trying to find love and even just like holding jobs, like all that stuff. Just perfect. There's actually some kind of smart stuff in the script, too, because when Harry starts more or less, I will say dating, but that's kind of light, loosely saying dating, Mary, and she asks him about, like, what he does, he brings up that he grooms dogs, essentially, that he says he loves animals and he gets into dogs, but he doesn't mention the worm farm that they have, because I think if they mentioned the worm farm, she would, like, 1,000% know that this is the friend of the limo driver that she had.
Yeah.
And his whole "I got worms" things. And that's like, it's just, there's just so many things in this movie too, where like when the thugs or whatever are in their apartment and they're like, let's trash the place. And she's like, we'll send the message. What can we really do? I mean, the guy's got worms.
They got worms in their living room.
And the pets' heads are falling off. Yeah, it's like, we got no jobs, we got no money, pets' heads are falling off. Like, it's such a good line.
They still don't get the message. It's just like, his head fell off. What happened? I mean, he was old.
He was getting older. Yeah, his head fell off.
Like, when your pet reaches a certain age, its head will just fall off. That's just something that'll happen.
You know, and then watching something like that as a kid, I probably thought that's what happened to old pets. Their heads just fall off. I mean, that guy clearly murders that birdie. It's off screen, but he deserved to die because that's, you kill animals, you're the worst person that there is. You kill people in movies, that's fun. Try to kill animals or kill animals, no.
I also enjoy the multiple times when they're with Mary, and it's like both of them both do it, is like they get like ridiculously competitive with her, and like Lloyd tackles her on the stairs. He's like, "I'll race you," and then he trips over his own foot, and he's just laying there, so he like tackles her to beat her. And then when her and Harry are on the mountains, and she's like playfully throws a snowball at him, and he just like absolutely crushes her in the face with one. Like he starts legitimately getting angry, like, I can't believe she just hit me with a snowball. Like I'm gonna hit her back.
Yeah, they have no sense of a woman respecting a woman. And it's kind of weird because like watching all of them, the sequel and the prequel are definitely a little bit on the sexist side. A lot on the sexist side. Also, way racist. They're really going after the Asians in this. I mean, in this first movie, unless I've missed something, like the only thing really is like his fantasy, I think, when the chef comes out.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything where they're just like blatantly racist. In the prequel, there's an Asian girl and they're calling her like Ching Chang, mocking her like throughout the entire movie. And then they do the same thing in the sequel for some reason when they meet Harry's parents, who happen to be Chinese. And when the mom starts talking, like Lloyd's like, "What is that? Like, what are you doing?" And there's a missed moment in that. I know you didn't rewatch it, but Harry's mom talks to him, and she comes up and starts talking to him in Chinese, and he's like, "Mom, I don't know a word of what you just said." But like, I kind of wish that they just went with like a highly intelligent like response in Chinese, and you're like, yeah, he's fucking stupid as all hell, but of course he knows Mandarin.
Yeah.
That was like a missed opportunity to just be like, yeah, he's just extremely smart at that one thing for no reason at all. It's Jaws. They don't know what works, and they're just trying to crack the formula, but they're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. I think, yeah, this whole discussion is like, what works about this? Why are these things so memorable? The movie ages pretty well too. I don't know. Obviously, technology would totally change this movie if they had cell phones and the internet and all that. Nothing really beyond that feels outdated. Like, if you did a cross-country trip, you'd experience a lot of the same things possibly if you were like low on money. I think it's kind of relatable, and it's like a caricature of that. It's a caricature of adulthood. So
we talked about with Some Like It Hot, that has a great final moment, final shot with Jack Lemmon and the guy that's going to be his husband, is a great ending. But this movie does also have just one of the best final endings of after Mary gets her husband back, so they have just nothing, and they're like trying to hitchhike their way back home, and they're just walking along the side, and that bus for like the bikini tour shows up. They're like, "We're looking for oil boys to oil us up before our shows," and they just look at each other. Then you know it's going to be something stupid where it's just like, "Man, if you go like 3 miles down the road, there's a town, and I'm sure there's some guys there that would be real lucky to do a job like that."
Yeah, and then they trick you and they make you think that maybe there's a glimmer of smart in Lloyd where he's like, "You idiot," and he chases after them, and he does catch up to the bus, and he's like, "Sorry, my friend was wrong. The town's the other direction."
Yeah, my friend's a bit slow there, but
yeah. And they're like, those two guys are gonna be so lucky. Like, what are we gonna like? Hopefully,
one day
we get some luck
catch
like
our
that.
break. That's another moment I just always think about is that of just the bus pulling up. Where could you find some guys like that? Ah, man, a few miles down the road, be some guys that would love to do that.
I also like too where when they're stupid and they say dumb things, they interpret them as being like really funny. Like they have a really great sense of humor, which is what Mary gets with Harry a lot of the time. Like,
yeah.
I know that she's supposed to be, I mean, she's not in love with him. The line that we get in the movie is like, you have to go out and act like everything's fine. So she's just hanging out with some random guy that she met. I mean, they have all this money and stuff, but she doesn't seem to care about the money. She's rich. It's not like she's like money hungry and just trying to like be with that person. She's like one of the more sensible characters, probably the most sensible character in the entire movie. We're just like, there, you find out there's a ransom. They have her husband. The drop didn't go so well. I mean, the drop was in a public place, which was weird because I think every time I see this movie and they just leave the briefcase there, I think if I was in the airport, I'd like trip over that fucking thing. Like I wouldn't see it.
That's how you know this is pre 9/11. Like somebody just leaves a bag in the middle of an airport terminal and no one seems to care.
Yeah, in the real world, they would have been on that so fast. Plus, I don't think that the limo driver would be able to get to the terminal like he did.
No, yeah,
and
that's the only thing that's really dated about this movie is airport security.
And yeah, he makes that line too, where when he falls out of the terminal, and he's like, "Oh, that's the second time that happened this week or something." So
yeah,
what?
I fell out of the terminal again.
Yeah, lost my job. Can't believe you can't leave the scene of an accident. Which I don't even know what accident they're talking about because he literally leaves there's two accidents that he happens in that opening scene. One where he is like not paying attention to the road and like causes a terrible accident where there's an explosion. And I'm assuming he killed people. Like I don't think people survived that. And then the other one was just like rear-ending another car, and he does leave the scene of that accident too. So when he's like, "Yeah, apparently you can't just leave a scene of an accident," like He did it twice. So yeah, Lloyd Christmas, he is a killer. And then they kill again. Yeah, I think there's something here, Chuck. He has the fantasies about killing people. He definitely killed
does
mental.
killed some people.
He's killed people in car accident. He's killed people with rat poison. There's a lot.
He's a scarier guy than you know.
I'm just jumping all around here, but when they're in the restaurant, Harry throws the salt over his shoulder and it hits Seabass, and then he's like, "I got this plan," and it's probably one of the smarter things that he does in this entire movie, where he's like, he says that he'll buy them each a beer. Harry's like, "We can't afford that," and Seabass said he's gonna pay for our dinner, and he's like, "Seabass said that," and then Seabass is like, pointing at himself, like, "Yeah, 4 beers over here." She's like, "All right."
Well, if that's Seabass.
So they take all that extra stuff, and they're driving down the road, and that scene with Harry just like, "Oh, that was so smart. How'd you come up with that?" He's like, "Oh, I saw it in a movie." And he's like, "Oh, and they got away." Then he's like, "No." The guy catches up to him and kills him. Like, perfect. I'm actually kind of interested to revisit next week's movie, because that's another movie I haven't seen in a long time either. I probably haven't watched that in 10 years. Actually, yeah. Some Like It Hot, Dumb and Dumber all the way through, and next week's... Yeah, I haven't watched those all in a while. I don't know why. I think the comedies I'm seeing are the new comedies, and I'm just like, oh, that was okay. But then not going back to the classics.
You gotta go back to them. We're going from brother to brother. We got another set of brothers.
I think maybe in the last couple of years, I've watched Step Brothers quite a few times.
You can always watch that.
Yeah, that Anchorman. I'm actually surprised we don't have Will Ferrell in any of these movies. I mean, if anything, I thought he would have been in Some Like It Hot. Little Will Ferrell. I mean, technically, Jamie Lee Curtis is in that. But yeah, I don't think that I have really anything else more to say about it. I think that if you're looking for comedy, like to make a comedy, this is a prime example. If you're going to focus on the right stuff, you got to focus on the character beats, the character moments. That's the stuff that matters and makes the rest of it funnier. You can't have when they're trying to crack a formula, which is what they're clearly trying to do for the other 2 movies, they fail at it so hard. They just reiterate the jokes, and it's like, it's not funny. We'll just go back and watch the original movie again if we want to laugh. Like, this is just, and it just like ages so poorly too.
Yeah, I think we mentioned numerous times that this movie is dumb. It's clearly in the title. They're telling you right there that it's dumb. But I feel like that's something that isn't in, like, you don't get a lot of comedies anymore that just want to be kind of dumb comedies. It feels like every comedy has to have something else in it. Like, it has to be either like a comedy drama or an action comedy or
horror comedy,
something that like
they're hybrid.
They're like overthinking it. Yeah, they're like overthinking it too much to get to what should just be something funny. Out of like the past, I don't know, like 5-10 years, like big comedies that I can think of, and they're not even really big, is more of like any of Wes Anderson stuff. I mean, those are always funny. Those are always great. He's still doing good comedy.
I thought The Big Sick. I thought The Big Sick was funny, but it's heavy in drama too.
Yeah, there's different things. There's different types of comedy, but yeah, that, like, just this flat out dumb comedy doesn't.
You made me think of like Barbie. Barbie was like a great example of like Ken kind of encaptured that dumb character. And they didn't have to really explain him beyond like, that's just Ken. That's just Ken. That's it. It's the way they explain him. Yeah, I don't know why that didn't even come to my mind. I wasn't thinking about it at all. Barbie. But like I said, the last couple things that I've tried to see in theaters that were supposed to be comedies were like, okay. Including Will Ferrell. He let me down. His dog movie was like, it had funny moments in it, but I was just like, over it.
I think we've covered it all.
Yeah, we'll be back next week with what?
Oh, brother, where art thou?
Oh, yeah. That brought bluegrass back to the mainstream audiences. Is it going to get you in a funk listening to that again?
It's always a good time to listen.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, we'll talk about it next week. The music in it is pretty good.
I mean, the music's good in all the Coen Brothers.
I mean, but they're singing it.
Yeah.
I don't think you have that and everything. The music in this and Dumb and Dumber was actually pretty good too. Yeah, there's like an underlying thing of music happening in all the comedies. They're literally musicians in Some Like It Hot too. So there you go. That's your full circle. We'll be back next week with that, and then we'll be switching up genres again. Thanks for listening, everybody. We are Cinema d'Amore. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with news and information on upcoming episodes. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, Pandora, Alexa, or iHeartRadio. It would be greatly appreciated if you subscribe to our podcast on your platform of choice. We also appreciate feedback, so rate us, review us, and let us know what you think. And above all else, thank you for listening.